Hello everyone, Jesus Pelosa here with Mambo Merge, and thank you for joining us. Today is Thursday, October 20th, and our Closer Look webinar for this month consists of going over some of the most popular features offered in our Pro Edition. Matt Kaufman, our lead developer, is going to be providing us with a closer look at how some of these features can help you help your customers. So, thank you again for joining, and thank you, Matt, for doing this. Take it away.
Thanks, Jesus. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. And I will share my entire screen to make it a little easier. And you should start seeing a new slide deck. So today I'm going to talk about some of the differences between the free edition and paid editions of Mambo Merge. I'm not going to distinguish too much between our standard and our pro. I'm going to just kind of focus free versus paid. And the first thing I want to talk about is button options. So in the free edition, your buttons for Mambo Merge will always just say the word merge. And you can only have one button per instance of Mambo Merge. So if you put Mambo Merge on the page, you get that one merge button, and that's it. Whereas in the paid editions, you can have custom button labels, and you can have multiple buttons per instance. You can also have drop-down options. And I have an example of what that can look like inside Salesforce. So I'm going to jump over to Salesforce now. And I'm looking at a case, but this could work on any record. It doesn't really matter. I just wanted to keep it simple. And what I did, even though we normally don't necessarily make our cases look this way, I did the layout, the page layout, where we can have two equal sides. And so what I have here is free on the left side and paid on the right. And that's what I'm going to do for all the slides that I'm looking at, is free on the left, paid on the right. And so for Salesforce, I wanted to do the same. And so what we can see on the left-hand side, these are the options when you're using the free edition of Mambo Merge. You can see here that the button says the word merge, and I can only really have one button. What I can do if I wanted to have two is I can put tabs at the top. And so we can see here, now I have two different buttons, and this would allow me to have different labels. So one could say work order, one could say invoice, for instance. Versus over here on the right-hand side, we have the paid options that we can do. So here we can see two buttons in one place, and they each have custom labels. I could also have a drop-down. You can put multiple instances of Mambo Merge on a single screen, but you can imagine it'd be very confusing if I had Mambo Merge and then underneath it another Mambo Merge and another, and underneath it another one, and they all had the word merge. You wouldn't know what they were doing. So in the free edition, if you're going to have multiple instances of Mambo Merge on the screen, we really recommend using this tab set here to do that. And I'll show you how we do that in just a second. What we do is we go to the gear at the top, and we click Edit Page. Now we're just doing standard Salesforce functionality, which is why it's included in the free edition. So this is something that your Salesforce administrators can do. They can come in, and on the left-hand side, you'll notice there's a bunch of different options, one of which is going to be tabs. I've already dragged that onto the screen here, and then I went ahead and created two different tabs. You can create as many as you want. And then on each tab, I went ahead and dragged and dropped an instance of Mambo Merge on there. And I actually did the same thing on the right-hand side for these paid options. But the difference is on the paid side, instead of using just a file ID, like you can see here, this file ID, on the paid side, I can use a word case dropdown in this case, or case buttons in this case. It can be any word you want. And that allows me to use a custom setup, a custom configuration that we've set up inside Mambo Merge. And I'll show you how we do that. So in the free edition, you can only say, here's my file. That's it. And now this one button is going to use that one template in that file. And that's all you can do in the free edition. On the paid editions, what you can do is you go to Setup in the Mambo Merge menu. And here we can set up what those words, so remember case buttons, case dropdowns were those words, what those words mean to Mambo Merge. And these are our custom configurations that I set up in advance. And here we can see that it's supposed to use the case object. And on that case object, let's go ahead and create one button called work order and one button called invoice. And here is the file I want to use. You can see I'm going to click this magnifying glass, and it lets me actually choose that file. And so we have that file chooser, which also is a huge time saver too. And so we're going to come back to the screen a couple times over the course of this demo. But this is only available in the paid editions of Mambo Merge. You can't create these custom multiple buttons or drop downs in the free edition. It's just the one merge button in the free edition. So that's the first thing I wanted to point out. That's usually one of the first things that installers start to ask is like, oh, how can I change the labels? I need 5 buttons and I don't want the word merge all over the place. And so that's one of the benefits of going to the paid edition. So next, data access. And this, again, it kind of goes in the order of the questions that we tend to get when people install Mambo Merge. So when you first install Mambo Merge in the free edition, if you were to click that merge button once you put Mambo Merge on the page, it's going to be able to get all the data of the record you're currently on. So in the example that we were on, we're on a case. It's going to get all the fields on that case record. And that will allow us to also create formula fields on the case. So if we needed to pull in something from that case account or from the case contact, let's say, we could use a formula field to do that. So your Salesforce administrator has to go in and create those formula fields in Salesforce. They are now fields on, in this case, the case record. And so you're able to access that data in Mambo Merge. Same thing for child relationships. So if you have a bunch of related lists underneath the case, say you created some custom objects, maybe like a bug object or something like that, you could roll up some of that data. Now, roll up summary fields, again, an administrator has to create them in Salesforce. It results in a new field being on the case object that maybe would say number of bugs or first bug date. There's only certain things that you can roll up. They tend to be mathematical functions. So you can do like counting things or summing up things or getting the min and the max of things. And that would allow you to then have that information on the case. And then in that case, in that situation, the free edition of Mambo Merge is going to be able to access it because it gets everything about that record. There are some built-in standard objects that we've included in the free edition because we wanted to help people out. So you don't always have to create a formula field or roll-out summary field for those standard objects, such as opportunities, quotes, or cases. For those standard objects, we're already going to pull in some of the key related lists or even parent fields that we know that everybody really needs when they're generating a document from those objects. But in the paid edition, in addition to all of that free information that you'd get in the free edition of Mambo Merge, you also are going to get information about the owner of a record created by last modified as well, and fields on those. That's basically a user record. You're going to get all the fields from the user record. And then you can also set up your own custom relationships. And this is really powerful because if you did have that bug object that I mentioned on the case object, let's just say, you can't pull in the name of the bug using a roll-up summary. You won't be able to pull in a text field or a long text field or any of that stuff. But with the relationships inside Mambo Merge, you can pull in as many child objects as you want, as well as many parent objects as you want. Next, those can be master detail or lookup fields for the parent objects. We also have options to do custom queries, and you could even query external data, so do callouts out of Salesforce and get external data and then feed that into Mambo Merge. So I'm going to jump back to Salesforce. And again, so if we were using the free edition, we're going to get all the fields here on the case object. And it doesn't matter what object we're on, we're always going to get all the fields on there. And again, for some special standard objects, we already knew ahead of time what people need. And so for cases, we get case comments and case teams. For opportunities, opportunity line items, opportunity contact roles. But if this was a custom object, we're not going to get any of the related lists. And we're not going to get any of the parent records. So even if you create a custom object that has a parent that is an account, we're not going to get those fields on that account. Whereas in the standard objects, we get some of those fields for you automatically. So the way we create a relationship is we go again to the setup screen inside Mambo Merge. And let's just go to case buttons here. And so in addition to the template options, we have this relationship screen. And this is where you can add a relationship. And I said you can add a lookup field or a related list. And so we could add a lookup field. In this case, it's a standard object, so there's not going to be too many things that are exciting. But we could get information about the assets. We could also do a related list and get information about, I don't know, case histories. If you wanted to provide okay, here's when your case was opened, here's when it was escalated, here it was closed, you can actually include that too. And so this allows you to add more data than what Mambo Merge does in the free edition. And you're able to do that without having to write a custom query. You can just use our drop-down menus to say, this is what I also want you to get. And then when you use the button or drop-down in this case for Mambo Merge, it'll go get all that other information as well. So it's very easy to do this. You don't need to know how to do a query. But if you want to do a custom query, we do support that too. And I'll talk about how we do that in just a minute. All right, so that was data access. And again, that tends to be the second thing people talk to us about. So the first thing is usually look and feel about the buttons, and then they start talking about, well, I also need to get this other data. And next, we usually talk about output. So in the free edition of Mambo Merge, if you want something to be bold or blue or bulleted or anything like that inside, let's say, your Word doc, you have to format your template to use that formatting. Mambo Merge isn't going to do the formatting for you. So you would have to take that merge field and make it bold. And if you wanted to do some type of logic inside your document, so for instance, if you wanted to make something uppercase because it's the just the way your invoice looks or something like that, there's no way to have Mambo Merge do it for you in the free edition. You can create a Salesforce formula field. So an administrator can go into Salesforce and in that create a new formula field on that object. And in that formula, there are functions that you can use, such as uppercase, lowercase, or if conditions, things like that. And that's something that you can do. You can create a Salesforce formula field. And so often our customers on the free edition, they end up having to create a lot of formula fields inside Salesforce to get everything that they need to be usable in their document generation. But in the paid editions, we basically do that for you. So if you're a paid customer, we want to make it as easy as possible. We don't want you to have to go and change your Salesforce and create new fields. It's much easier to update your Word templates, let's say, than it is to update your Salesforce fields. And so we allow you to use functions inside that Word document. We have functions that are included in Mambo Merge. And those are things like lowercase, uppercase, if conditions, things like that. And that can be really powerful because you can reduce the number of variations of templates that you need using an if condition. So you might have, let's say, an invoice, and the terms of the invoice might vary based on something, based on the state. Maybe you have to charge different tax or something like that. You can definitely create fields in Salesforce to do all of that, but you can also use an if condition inside Mambo Merge, which means that you're just putting it in your Word doc. And that's a lot simpler, especially if your role is such that you don't get to make many changes to Salesforce, but you can fully control that template. And so if your company has a process around making changes to Salesforce, or it's a different team that manages Salesforce and you have to justify why you need all these fields, being able to just make the changes in your Word document will empower you to control that output a lot faster than going through some process for deployment and things like that. So you can use our functions that are built into Mambo Merge. You can also format the merge field just like we talked about before. But what's really nice about the paid edition is that if you have a rich text field inside Salesforce, and a rich text field is a type of field inside Salesforce that lets you actually format the text. So you can make things bold, you can have bullets, you can indent, you can underline, all that stuff. If you have a rich text field inside Salesforce and you put rich text into that field, so you write a nice paragraph with bold and italics and things like that, when that gets pushed into the document, when Mambo Merge does the document generation, we'll actually convert the Salesforce rich text into, let's say, Microsoft Word or PowerPoint rich text or formatted text. And so that bold will be preserved, that underline will be preserved, and so on and so forth. And so then you don't have to spend as much time formatting your document. The text is perfect inside Salesforce. It'll now be perfect inside your generated document as well. And again, that can be a huge time saver. You can imagine if your Salesforce users are great at typing in what they need to type and they format it perfectly, this little paragraph or couple paragraphs, one button to just push that into a document is way better than having to say, okay, insert paragraph 1 on field 1, insert paragraph 2 on field 2, insert paragraph 3 on field 3, and then trying to format it. And even then, it wouldn't be formatting within the paragraph. It would be the whole paragraph would be bold, and the whole paragraph would be underlined, stuff like that. So if you just need a word here or there to be formatted, really the only option is to use rich text in the paid edition. Some other output features in the paid edition are for images. So this is a great one. When we do our demos, normally we demonstrate an opportunity and we try to have images on that opportunity. And often we even do images on each product on the opportunity. And so if you're producing a quote, for instance, and the things that you sell are physical goods, that can be really useful to show the person this is the blue wrench that you're ordering 5 of. This is the red hammer that you're ordering 3 of, and so on and so forth. And it looks much more professional than when it's just words. And so you can do inserting images into files in the paid edition. We also have the ability to replace images. So if you're creating a very nice presentation and you want the image to be exactly the right size and exactly the right location, you can use our replace image function there too. And so that's another powerful feature that we see on the output. And the other one is one that I always like to point out because this is exclusive to Mambo Merge. So in Mambo Merge, we have the ability to clone PowerPoint slides. So you can set up a single slide that looks perfect and you want that to be repeated multiple times, let's say based on a related list. So clone this slide for every product on the opportunity. That's a feature that we have available in the paid edition, and that's exclusive to Mambo Merge. So those are some of the output features, and again, that tends to be like the third thing that people talk to us about when they're setting up Mambo Merge. And I really should mention, one of the reasons that we're actually doing this presentation is that when you first install Mambo Merge, you get a 30-day free trial of the paid edition. It didn't used to be that way. It used to be you had to call up, but from now on, anyone who installs Mambo Merge for the first time will get that free 30-day trial. So you can take advantage of all these paid features right away. And if you installed Mambo Merge a long time ago and you didn't get to use all of these features or try them out, you can always give us a call or send us an email, and we're happy to give you another 30-day free trial. Let's move on to the next slide. So process automation. So again, this really is following kind of the order of people when they're using Mambo Merge when it starts to get more and more advanced. So process automation is one of the things that people usually start talking to us about once they've already got their documents generated. It looks great. It's got the right data. And then they say, oh, but I really need this to happen when, you know, a certain record is edited a certain way, or, you know, a certain step in our process. And could it also do this when it's done? You know, we get that a lot. So in the free edition, you're limited to basically showing and hiding Mambo Merge based on field values on the record. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. And that's something that we usually demo when we do our demos. And that's just built-in Salesforce functionality. So of course it's included in the free edition. In general, everything that's included in Salesforce already, you can use with Mambo Merge. But in the paid editions, we have some additional functionality that allows you to really kind of automate your processes and save you a lot of time. So in the paid edition, you can use custom file names on generation. So the free edition, when you generate a document, the name of the document is actually going to be the name of the template. So if it's called My Invoice, guess what? The name of the new document is called My Invoice. And you may want it to be instead the name of the record. So, you know, Invoice 12345. And that's a little more useful than My Invoice. Or invoice template, right? That wouldn't be good at all. So custom field names on generation is a great way to kind of personalize the file. We also have some post-merge actions. We have the ability to update the record. So when you do the merge, go ahead and update the record. And that can be really useful if you are trying to create a list of records and you're just going to go in there and you're going to do something to each one. And as you work on it, you want it to move off of the list if you're using like a list view or report. So we can update a date field, a checkbox, whatever you want. But that'll allow you to kind of have a process around this. Similarly, we can log a task. So if you want to record in Salesforce, hey, I generated that document, you can log a task automatically when you merge that record. And also send an email. So if you want to send an email, as soon as I click the button, just go ahead and email that file to the recipient. To whoever that opportunity quote's supposed to go to or whatever it may be, we can do that for you automatically too. And there's also, from a code perspective, there's a custom event that we're actually, it's called dispatching, which means that basically we're letting Salesforce know, hey, I just did that merge. And that would allow you to do some additional code stuff too. And I just noticed this slide is missing something. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this slide in my other window. We have the ability in the paid edition to save the file to the record. So in the free edition, when you do a merge, that file is downloaded to your computer. And you then can upload it back to Salesforce. You can email it from your email client. You can do whatever you want. But in the paid edition, we actually save it to Salesforce if you want that. And then from there, you know, you can share it. You can Slack it. You can chat or post it. You can do whatever you want with it. And that's, again, a big process saver. And we have some future post-merge actions coming. And we'll talk about that later on the last slide. What I'm going to do real quick is just jump back to Salesforce and show you that hide and show functionality that's built in. Again, this is something that we typically demo, so I'm not going to do it too in-depth. But basically, on this Lightning App Builder page, there's the ability to add filter criteria to show and hide a record. So if I click on this component here and look at this here on the right-hand side, set component visibility. And so this allows you to basically say, like, if a certain, let's just say case reason, equals installation, then go ahead and show it. And if it's not case installation, then it wouldn't show it. And this would allow you to show and hide stuff. And so you can kind of have a light process functionality around your free edition, but it's definitely not too much automation. It's more just making sure Mambo Merge shows up on the page only at the right time or based on the record meeting certain criteria. All right, let's jump to the next one. All right, so options to extend. And this is where really the paid edition, the pro edition shines. So the free edition, you can put Mambo Merge inside a screen flow. So Salesforce has the flow functionality, allows you to kind of create these multi-step wizards, and you can just drag Mambo Merge onto that screen flow. It's going to be the exact same as if you had dragged it onto a record. So all you can provide is the record ID and the template ID. It's still useful. It's still great. It's similar to that show hide option that we just looked at. So if you didn't want to use the showing or hiding of Mambo Merge on the page itself, you can always have a button, and then that button will show Mambo Merge. And so you can maybe put some additional requirements in that screen flow if you want, like making sure people fill out the fields before they do the merge and things like that. And so that's always going to be an option because it's built into Salesforce. On the paid side, you can see we have this really long list. So you can still embed it in the screen flow. And in addition to specifying the record ID and the template ID, you can actually specify all the merge data. So all the data that needs to be merged. And that allows you to do multiple queries. You can do queries to get different records and compile them into an object and pass that into Mambo Merge. You can even specify the template body. And so one of those queries that you're doing, if you're doing some type of custom functionality, you could determine which template you need to use. And so you could dynamically select the template, like I mentioned at the bottom, and then specify that entire template body into Mambo Merge. And that means that your templates technically don't even need to be stored inside Salesforce with the paid edition. You could query that template from another system or get it off of your website, wherever you want, and then pass that body into Mambo Merge. We also have a feature to automatically run on load. So in the free edition, if you put Mambo Merge in a flow, a screen flow, yes, it's going to be there. And yes, somebody can click the button to do the merge, but they had to click a button to just get to that screen. So now they're clicking multiple buttons, all just to do the merge. Whereas in the paid editions, we have the ability to run on load, which means as soon as we get to that screen, Mambo Merge will do its magic, and the person doesn't need to click an additional merge button. And so that can save a lot of time and also kind of reduce frustration with end users. I mentioned that post-merge event that you can then handle as well. That allows you to kick off your own processes once the merge is done. You can send that file yourself using another tool outside of Salesforce, or maybe do an integration with another system to send it to some type of file repository, etc. The other big ones that we often do with our customers, again, when they're kind of past the initial stages, is bulk functionality and batch functionality. So bulk is when you want to generate, let's say, one document, but there's going to be one page per record in that document. And batch means we're going to generate one document per record. There's pros and cons to both, and sometimes you need them both. It really varies based on your use case. We often see bulk when you're doing like a document that you're going to print. So obviously, it's a lot easier to print one document with 100 pages than to open up 100 documents and print each one, right? So that'd be bulk. Whereas batch, if you're going to be saving that file to the record and you want it on each record, maybe you're going to automate it by sending out emails using our post-merge actions, then batch would be a better fit. And so those are the options to extend. And again, that tends to be once you're done with all the basics of getting things up and running, that's where you really want to kick things into high gear. So there are a couple more slides I'm just going to kind of go through. Okay, so this is something that we wanted to cover. So when it comes to releases, so right now we're on a monthly release cycle for Mambo Merge. So we're outputting a release once a month. Free edition from now on, you're always able to go to our website and read the release notes. And you'll get automatic push updates. So this is a feature of Salesforce, the App Exchange. We're able to push updates to our installed clients. And so we're going to be pushing those updates to all of our installed clients so that our customers are using the latest version of Mambo Merge as soon as it's publicly available. Now, in the paid edition, we want to give you some additional options. So yes, you can still get those automatic push updates, but we'll also give you automatic pre-release push updates. So you could test out the latest edition of Mambo Merge before it's generally available. You can test it out in your sandboxes. And then we'll also be providing release notification emails to our customers on the paid edition so that they know, hey, you're about to get updates to your sandbox, or hey, you're about to get updates to your production. And then finally, a service that we offer our paid customers is to opt out of the automatic push updates. So a lot of our customers, they're very sensitive about changes to their Salesforce. They want to control it all. Happy to let you control it. You can opt out of those updates to either production or sandbox. It's up to you. You just have to let us know, and then we'll make sure that you don't get those updates unless you ask us to do it. Finally, some roadmap items. So free edition is going to continue to be free for 10 users. No change on the roadmap for that. So that's great. The paid edition, if you are a paid customer, you always get priority for feature requests. So please send in your feature requests. Those are the ones that we work on first, anything that a paid customer requests. We're coming out with a bulk and batch wizard that will make it easier to do bulk and batch functionality with Mambo Merge. That's going to be included in the paid edition only. Slack integration is also on the roadmap, as well as increased XLSX or Excel support for different functions, and some more post-merge actions in general is where we're going. So those are the things on the roadmap. So those were all my slides. I got in just under time. If you want, we could open up for questions.
Sure. I did have a question myself going through some of those slides. I don't have something that was mentioned earlier, but is there a difference between the Pro and free edition with regards to files supported? Which particular type of files are supported on either one?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I would recommend is going to our website, mambomerge.com, and we have a pricing link at the top of the website where you can actually look at a comparison between the free, the standard, and the Pro. I just pulled it up. Keep me honest. So yes, the free edition only includes docx files or Word files, let's say, where standard will include docx, PowerPoint, and Excel, and then Pro will also include HTML and PDF output. Those are all great ones that I probably should have included. I see there's another question as well. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, is there any difference in terms of support from the Mambo Merge side between free and Pro?
Yeah, so we want to give as much support as we can to all of our customers. There are some differences. In free, we will point you to the right place. So for instance, in the free edition, if you were to ask, hey, I need a formula field in Salesforce because I don't get functions in my free edition, we're not going to create that field for you. We'll just point you to the help file for Salesforce. Whereas our Pro customers, they sometimes let us create the field, they often don't, but we're going to provide much more detailed instructions, sometimes even step-by-step instructions rather than just pointing them to the Salesforce help file. That's a big one. Pro customers will update templates for them often as well. So if there's something that's not working, they can send us the template and we'll investigate fully. For a free customer, we'll often investigate as well, but we're not necessarily going to fix it. So for example, if you were to send us a template and we see, oh, the problem is you have a space between a word and a period or something like that. I don't know, inside a merge field. Let's say this merge field's just got a problem. You misspelled stage name from the opportunity. We'll tell you that you made the mistake. Whereas our Pro customers will actually go, we'll edit the file, we'll change it for them and send it back. And so you tend to get a much higher level of service. But in general, we try to help our customers as much as possible.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any more questions from anyone? Okay. Well, I do want to thank everyone for joining. And if you do think of questions 10 minutes after this call, as it happens, feel free to send it our way. Our next Closer Look webinar is scheduled for Thursday, November 17th. So if you'd like to attend, follow us on social media or email us to add you to the list. Thank you, Matt, for running us through this and answering questions. Thank you, folks, for asking questions, and have a wonderful rest of your day.